Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another interview. I'm pleased to be joined by Grand Sefton winning jockey Charlie Hammond. Charlie, I would ask how you are, but I can imagine you're on cloud nine at the moment.
Yeah, still not really come down. I mean, it was a great day, so we wouldn't mind a few more of those, that's for certain.
Talking about the race yesterday, I've got it on here. That's the tapes go up here. You'll think three from the inside here going down to the first. Was that the ideal position you wanted to be in?
Yeah, to be fair, I wouldn't mind it being right down the inside. I was happy with where we were, though. He's jumped around there twice before, so I didn't really need to be going wide. I was happy to be covered up a bit if I could be and just get a nice handy away position and just get him in a nice rhythm jumping, which he duly did. He's a lovely horse. He doesn't have a lot of scope, but he jumps beautifully when he's in short, and he can get in a nice rhythm, which he did yesterday.
So before the race, going into the race from last year, you won a cracking race, finished third in it last year, was a pound lower. Going into the race, was you quite confident and perhaps he might have been a bit overpriced at the odds he was in the morning?
Yeah, if it hadn't rained, I thought he was massively overpriced. You could argue he didn't quite stay last year because he got halfway at the run and then stopped a bit and just got done for second. He was only beating a short head for second. But at that price, at 25 to 1 or 20 to 1, whatever he was, it was a big price for a horse who finished third in the year before. I mean, the rain was the biggest worry, but then he's won on heavy ground over 2 miles. It was just if he stayed, and he did, and we were very lucky, to be honest.
So just jumping over the water now, was you quite happy going over the water jump where you was? I think you're in fourth at the moment. Sam's in front on Creefield. James Best is leading the way as well, and you're still behind them. So was you quite happy with where you was going into the start of the Grand National course itself?
I was very happy. James Best sort of jumped around twice in the Fox Hunters, and they were the right ones to be following. They got plenty of experience. I wasn't stuck behind something that had never jumped around there before properly, and I was following the right horses. It was a great position to be in, actually, and he relaxed beautifully at that point in the race, and we could get in a nice rhythm from there on. There are lovely row of fences in front of you, and it worked out ideally.
So what's that run to Beecher's like? You've got to think 4 or 5 just before Beecher's Brook. Is it all about just trying to get your horse into a rhythm, meeting every fence on the right stride? Because as we see here, I think touch kick goes there and you're sitting in fifth just on the inside, saving every inch of ground. So is that run to Beecher's all about just keeping momentum and just jumping as well as you can?
Yeah, like anywhere, it's just getting a nice rhythm and getting them enjoying it and get them going properly and in the proper rhythm. And I was lucky that we did get in a rhythm and we could jump them and we were smooth over them. He was quick out the back of them, and we could keep going and he travelled beautifully, which all helps.
Just before the canal turn, he sort of made a little mistake at the Foyne Avon. I think he just dragged his back legs through it. Was there any sort of concern that you could have been on the back foot before meeting the canal turn?
Not particularly, because everyone slows up a bit for canal turn anyway, because you've got to obviously jump it at such an angle. I did know, to be fair, that Bow Bay, my horse, could get a bit low at the odd one, and Henry Brook had warned me about that because he rode in the year before. But he is very safe in how he does it. He's just got his way of doing it, and it wasn't a massive concern because it meant I could just hold my position. I could wheel out a bit wider, and I've just got him back underneath me a bit more. And probably wasn't a bad thing to have him backing off the next fence, which was obviously canal turn, after just respecting it a bit more, after just going through Foyne Avon a bit too much. It was probably the best thing for him.
I mean, going over Valentine's Brook and going over the next fence, you're starting to push him along a little bit here. Was there any sort of concern that maybe James Best, I mean, we're still quite a long way from home as well. Was there maybe a concern that you might have been a little bit out of pace, that it might have potentially been a bit hard to peg him back maybe?
Well, that was my biggest concern at that point. I almost thought, that we were just going to try and get round and finish as close as we could, but not hassle him too soon because we wouldn't be winning the race from there. I thought there were plenty still travelling well enough around me, and we'd just go and have a nice run and try and pick up third or fourth maybe if we could, if they stopped in front of us. He is a game little horse though, and I hadn't smacked him at that point. I was just all about trying to save as much energy as we could in case he didn't quite stay. We got to the back of the last and he didn't find a lot then. So it was all about trying to save a bit if I could, and that's why I went down the inside a bit as well. Save every ground you can, and keep as much capacity as we could.
So what's it like coming over to second last? I mean, you're still in about eighth here, and from the commentary's position, it looks like you don't really have much of a chance. But is it all about just trying to save as much petrol as you can before the long run to the elbow over the last? Or so what's that like for you? What's going through your mind at that moment in time?
Going into 2 out, I thought I just needed to try and get past Sammy. Sammy was in front of me, and I just got past Sammy going into it, and Conor Brace was in front of me a little bit, and I just thought if I could wing away over 2 out on the last, I'd be able to give him a smack, and hopefully we'd pick up a little bit. And I winged 2 out, and I landed running a bit, and I half got a bit of a sniff, so I gave him a smack, and he picked up for the smack, and I could feel him accelerating into the last, so I knew we'd have a bit of a chance. Probably didn't think we'd win, but I thought we'd be finishing well, which was nice. And then he's jumped the last brilliantly. I've given him a couple more smacks, and he's absolutely taken off. I was very lucky to get up James Best inside as I did, but I only did because I had the horse that was there. He travelled that well all of a sudden. He was accelerating at the line, which you don't get many horses that are doing it there. And I was very lucky to have got the position I did.
I mean, talking about the gap up the elbow on the inside there, it was such a brave position. Did your eyes kind of light up when James left that sort of gap on the inside and you thinking to yourself, if I can try and sneak up here, if I can get up the Golden Highway, it might give me a chance to maybe go past him?
To be fair, I couldn't believe it, but I knew I had enough horse underneath me, and I knew I was going quick enough to get there and almost make the gap myself. You know, I was on. He is a tough little horse, and he'd run through anything for you. So I knew if I could get half a sniff of one, I'd be able to not barge my way through it, but half make a bit of a gap and him to get fine plenty. And I got there easily in the end, and I was away from James as quick as I could be.
So what's that feeling like crossing the line? You let out a big pat down the neck of Bow Bay. What was that feeling like to cross that entry line over the national fences? We've seen down the years so many people have won over the big fences, and it can really make legends at Aintree. What was that feeling like for you crossing that line?
Look, it's everything. It's what we all dream of, isn't it? I mean, I couldn't quite believe it. I'm very lucky to ride who I ride, like to ride for who I do, and the horses I ride are very good horses, and it's exceptional, really, what the boss has done with that horse, and I couldn't quite believe it, to be honest.
So in terms of maybe in the spring, could the potential tilt at the Topham during the Grand National Festival be of a... Could you be thinking about going to Aintree for the Topham maybe after that performance?
Look, I'm sure he probably will go for the Topham. I don't know what the options are for him. I don't know what I'll do in the process, but you'd have to almost give him a run there. The Topham tends to be a better race, but then he deserves his place there after the performance yesterday. You know, you couldn't not run him almost, and I'm sure the owner wouldn't mind another day out at Aintree at that meeting, because it's a lovely meeting to go and have a run at. And he's earned a place there, and you wouldn't think he'd be far away from being one of the principals in the market.
I'm talking about Dr. Richard Newland. He's a man who's given you plenty of opportunities, especially this calendar year. He gave you a ride on the Patriot, the Champion Hurdle, which we spoke about at Warwick before Cheltenham, and he's given you another big opportunity here. What's he been like for your career? Must be a huge mentor for your career to give you these big opportunities on the biggest stage of them all.
Oh, he's an amazing bloke. You know, I've been with him nearly 7 years, which is a long time. I'm only 24, and he has helped me every step of the way. I rode my first win under rules for him as an amateur, and he's just helped me from day one. He's got lovely horses. He's a serious trainer. You know, what he buys is very clever. He only paid $4,000 for that horse yesterday out of a claimer at Worcester. I mean, how he does it, I have no idea. He's just a genius. And everything is always ready for the day. There's never a stone unturned almost, and it works. He's a very clever bloke, and do you know what? He's one of the nicest blokes you'll meet as well. You know, he doesn't ever mean any harm. He loves to have a chat and a laugh about the football, and he's always on your side. The only problem is he's a Blade supporter.
And looking at some of the horses you've built a connection with so far this season, on the wild side, took you to Newbury last time on Hennessy Day. You won a couple of races on him earlier on this season. What did you make of his run at Newbury last time out?
I thought he ran all right. I thought the ground was probably a bit too quick for him, to be honest, and he's actually been for a wind up since. He'll improve for that a little bit, and hopefully on a bit slower ground, and I'd probably run him over the same trip again. There's a question mark as to whether he quite stays it, but hopefully with having his wind done, that'll have helped that chance. I think he's a nice horse. I think there's a nice little pot in him like that day. He's no world beater, but he deserves his day. He deserves his day on a big stage, and he will probably get it, to be honest, because he's got a tough little heart in him, and he jumps so well. He'll probably be right over a fence. He's just a horse who's had a few problems, but those problems haven't arisen this season, and hopefully we can keep him sound and everything will go right for him.
Also, a couple of weeks ago, you had a big winner at Leicester, 20-1 Theo at a big price. It must have been a good thrill for you, and he's another one who's a big price, but another big opportunity he took quite well.
He's a lovely horse. I've a great association with that horse. You know, that's another horse the boss has improved so well. He came to us off 104, and he won off 139 the other day. He won 5 on the bounce, and I was lucky enough to have 2 of those on him, and that was my 3rd one on the other day. He's a great horse. He's improved. I finished 6th in a Grand Annual on him as well. So he's taken me to some big days for the boss, and I'm very lucky to get the chances on horses like that. I couldn't believe he was the price he was. We all fancied him a bit at home. He'd been working well, and it was just if everything fell right, and it did, and I'm very lucky.
And what's it like for you back in March at Cheltenham to ride on the Patriot in the Champion Hurdle? It must have been such a great day for you to be involved in a race of such magnitude on the first day of the festival, the biggest race on the first day as well. It must have been some thrill, because he ran quite a good race going down the hill before he emptied out. You must have been really proud of him.
Oh, look, he's run a blinder, you know. He wasn't an expensive purchase, and he's done a great job. He's travelled really nicely, and he just didn't quite have the bit at the end of the race. He's jumped for fun, but to even get me to 2 out like he did and be where I was just amazing. I never in a million years thought I'd be ever getting to that point in my life, and I'm very lucky to have done it at the age I have. It probably might not ever happen again, but if it does, I'll take it with both hands if I can.
And looking at Be Bold, he finished 7th in the Durham National, I think, at Sedgefield last time, but he's been a very consistent horse for you. He's been placed many a time before. What did you make of that run? And could he be a horse who's going to be aimed at national races, like the domestic nationals, again for the rest of the season?
He's actually on holiday. He probably wants a bit better ground. He's probably more going to be of a summer horse than anything else. So whether we quite see him over many of the nationals, he might go to Uttoxeter, I suppose, for the Midlands. But that will depend on ground because that can cut up a bit, can't it? You know. But he's a lovely horse. He's been very consistent throughout the summer. He won very nicely at Stratford the one day. It's just getting him right on his day, and he needs to be fresh and well. And with the doc's done a great job with him because originally we ran him over 2 miles the first day, and he's won over. I think he won over 3 miles nearly, and he ran, as you said, he finished 7th in the Durham National over 3.6. So you know, all of a sudden the plans changed with him, and it worked. We got a right tune out of him, which it's all about finding the right key with him, and we managed to do that.
And it's fine to wrap things up. What were your aims for the rest of the season? You've had a big winner on ITV, so it's showcase your talents to possibly a plenty more owners and trainers as well. So what would be the aim for you going forward now, between now and April?
Oh, look, I've 10 winners left in my claim. I'd love to ride out my claim and make some other big contacts like the boss. But I'm very lucky to ride for the trainers I do ride for. You know, they all support me. I've had plenty of rides this season, or what part of the season we have had, and I've been well supported. I can't thank everyone enough, but hopefully I could ride out my claim and get another nice big contact with some lovely horses to go and do well with and go to war on nice days. But I'll keep working with the contacts I've got because they've done me proud as well.
Awesome. Right, I'll stop the recording there. Right, where is it? There.